The MacBook. This is Apple's most iconic device ever produced, alongside the iPhone and iPod, of course. Specifically, this is the 2017 MacBook Air, the last MacBook of its kind to include the glowing Apple logo. Why did they remove that? This is the last MacBook ever to feature MagSafe 2 charging, and also the last MacBook ever to have an actual USB-A port. This is also the last Mac to feature a Thunderbolt 2 port, and also the most recent MacBook Air to include an actual SD card slot. There are a lot of last things for this MacBook, but there is also one more last thing that was included in this MacBook, and it's when you flip this thing over. And when you flip this thing over and you remove the screws, it is actually the last MacBook where you can actually upgrade the SSD. As you might know with Apple products, the more recent MacBooks have SSDs that are soldered into the logic board, meaning that you can't easily upgrade the SSD if you wanted to. Since this MacBook came with 128GB of PIDI SSD storage, all my files in iMovie are filling up the entire drive, and I had to resort to buy an external hard drive to actually store all my recordings and iMovie saves. And that is kind of inconvenient. So since this is actually the last MacBook that you can actually upgrade the SSD, I just said, why not? Let's just upgrade the SSD for more content. So let's upgrade the last MacBook ever with removable SSD storage from 128GB of storage to 2TB of storage. Before unplugging the SSD from the MacBook, I made sure to move all of my important files to an external hard drive so I can later move it back to the new SSD. The SSD that I'm going to use for this upgrade is the OWC Aura SSD. It has 2TB of storage, which would be enough for all my videos that I am going to make in the future. Since Apple SSDs are proprietary, you cannot insert any common NVMe SSD into the SSD slot. Therefore, if you want to insert a common NVMe SSD into your MacBook, you would need to purchase a separate adapter. Or you can also purchase a complete solution like what I did from OWC. It might be pricier, but it is guaranteed less to fail, especially compared to the cheap Chinese adapters. I am not sponsored by OWC, but I heard a lot about their SSDs being pretty good, so I decided to give it a shot. Anyways, let's install this bad boy into our MacBook. After installing the SSD, I fired up Internet Recovery, and then I created a partition on the new SSD. After that, I installed macOS Monterey, which is the latest supported version of macOS on my MacBook. But why stop there? With OpenCore Legacy Patcher, you can get this MacBook up to the latest version of macOS, which is currently, at the time of this recording, macOS Sonoma. Since I have time, why not? After completing the setup of macOS Monterey, I headed to System Settings and about this Mac to make sure everything is correct. As you can see from the video, you can see that the 2 TB of storage is installed. Now, let's head to OpenCore's website so we can download the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher, so we can get up and running on the latest macOS as soon as possible. Now let's make some final tweaks to our OpenCore setup by installing the necessary drivers to get this machine up and running smoothly. And there we have it, a MacBook Air 2017 running macOS Sonoma with 2 TB of storage. You can even see it here. Now though, the important thing is about the future of macOS patching, because since Apple Silicon and Intel-based Macs have different architectures, the problem is that Apple is going to be dropping support for all of the Intel MacBooks, meaning that compatibility with future Mac releases is going to be kind of uncertain. For example, the more recent Mac OS Sequoia is going to be dropping support for the 2018 and 2019 MacBook Airs, the one that came after this. And those are really modern, to be honest. Also, that means that literally the last MacBook Air with the Intel chip is going to be supported, which is the 2021, which came right before the Apple Silicon 2020 MacBook Air with the M1 processor. This is kind of getting scary for the macOS community because Intel Macs are almost dead forever. Also, thanks to the OpenCore Legacy Patcher team for making this Apple MacBook patching scheme very widespread and very accessible to do, because before 2020, before OpenCore existed, it would be hard to do macOS patching. And with the help of their software, the MacBook patching scheme has been so widespread lately. And that marks the end of today's video on my MacBook Air SSD upgrade. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to give a like and a comment, and if you want more technology related and gaming videos, subscribe. And with that, I'll see you soon.